All right, we are live. We are live. We are live. Greetings, everyone. Happy Sunday. Happy last day of June. um, we live and fresh in the morning, live in the flesh. Well, not in the flesh, but in the on the virtual, live virtual in the virtual flesh or whatever. But yeah, we just want to give everybody a time to come in and join in. Have we posted this in the we gotta share this in the Ma'at Temple group.
Yes, we need to share it in the Ma'at Temple. I don't even I know I have not been here in a while, so I miss you all. I miss sharing and talking. I've been on a roller coaster of growth for the past 3 months really. Since May, June with the book and the storytellers event that became what was Ain't Nothing But a G Thing on Saturday. It was amazing.
Yes, it was an amazing program. Amazing. I don't know what you call it, a show, a program, a sharing. I don't know what we want to call it. But
a healing session.
Yeah, healing session. Women were telling their stories, 6 Black women telling their stories about life and the things that happen to them or the things that they experience or certain perceptions or conclusions that they developed or end up coming into after certain experiences. And each of them gave a dynamic performance, which had some key insights into their life experience. And I love when we tell our stories, when we share our stories in life to help others get insight into us. But when we open up enough and allow others to get insight into ourselves, then what happens is those who we're sharing with a lot of times get insight into themselves, because a lot of people can relate to our journey. We may not share the same exact experiences. Well, none of us share the same exact experiences, but you might not even share the same experience, but you can at least empathize with someone or see and feel the lesson that is there for you to apply to your own experience, or even a possible, like, if you ever get into that experience, someone else's experience can actually serve as something in your own mind to help you navigate through a similar process that you may face sometime in your life. And so I honor and love and respect all of the women who shared their experiences yesterday. And hey, even as a man, I can learn, and I have learned some things from the women, from the sisters that shared, and it's just really something that happens energetically when people open up and share themselves with others. It's a healing for everyone. Even if I didn't experience what you experienced, Kenda, hearing about you speak about your stuttering helps me to look at, okay, where in my life have I stuttered? I might not stutter in speech. That might not be my challenge, but I might take stutter steps in life. Stuttering is, where I'm stuck in a place of maybe not moving forward, or keep, repeating the same things over and over again. Or I like to compare stuttering to like jumping double dutch we say for the unskilled double dutch jumpers. Like, I know, was the last summer I was trying to try to learn how to jump double dutch. You're on mute, babe. I was trying to learn how to jump double dutch, and I just, getting in the rope, getting in is the hardest thing. Getting in, because you're like, okay, I got it. Oh no, I don't got it. Okay, I got it. Oh no, I don't got it. And so it's the timing, and you got to find that sweet spot. Boom, get in. But then when you get in, you got to get the flow. You still on mute. I got a feeling you trying to talk.
What? Because I was talking and saying stuff.
Yeah, I said you was on mute.
Okay,
I guess you didn't
great.
hear me.
Yeah. So I have one of my castmates on in the back, and I want to bring her up. Yanique Elliston. So before I start, like most of us, well, I was a stranger to the majority of the women in the group. I did not know them, and it was amazing to work with 5 dynamic, powerful women. Let me take these glasses off. In the same space, and we were still allowed to be as large as we wanted to be and respected for it and not feared by it. And it was also beautiful that we also, in our power, we also were able to see each other's tenderness and beauty and gentleness all at the same time. And I think that's part of being Black women. That's the genius of Black women, because we and that's not taking anything from anyone else, but I'm talking about what I experience. We have a certain talent for navigating all of that in a beautiful way. So, and it was great to experience that with these women.
Right. So can we back up a little bit and tell everybody, how you doing, sister?
Good morning.
Yanique, did I pronounce that correctly?
You sure did.
Okay, great. So let's back up a little bit, because we want to talk about, y'all, your dynamic journey that y'all went through yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, the whole process. Yesterday was the culmination, but the whole process was a journey together. What was that about? And it's a question for both of you to give people an idea what Nothing But a G thing was ultimately about.
Kenda, if I may jump in.
Yes, of course.
I think that all 6 of us first had a moment where we accepted that we have a wealth of stories, but we questioned whether or not they were genius level, right? Because you think genius, you think academic genius. And we had several sessions before we even started crafting our stories, to help us kind of bring out these stories, these experiences, this inner knowing. So there was a lot of affirming moments throughout the process, just to let us know that just the way that we have to navigate and live our lives is it speaks to the genius that we have had to hone and master, even just to exist in all the different spaces that we have to show up in. So that was one of the first things I noticed. And then, as Kenda said, we really did a great job of showing up in our fullest selves while also making room for each other's fullest selves. And I thought that was beautiful. One of the things that I noted when we first were doing the sessions was I had to heal a sisterhood wound that I had from years ago, where I feel like there's this competition that women are told that we have to have with each other for jobs, for relationships, for just everything in life. You sometimes feel like, especially when you're in a male-dominated world or space, there's usually only one seat for a woman. Worse, if you're a Black woman, then maybe there's a half a seat for you. So then there's this kind of like game of musical chairs where you feel like if you're sitting down in the chair, then you have to make a wall so no one else can take your seat. And I talked about how I had to heal that. And I was really happy that this was a space where I never felt that at all. So that was really beautiful.
Wow, that's wonderful. So this is multiple things happening. It's not just you're not just there for one thing, you're healing multiple things within yourself, within one another, and then actually within the people that you're sharing this with. That's beautiful. Kenda, did you want to add on to that?
No, I mean, she said it beautifully. I mean, like I said, that's what I was leading into, and she just wrapped it up in a beautiful bow. Like, we bonded, not out of trauma. It wasn't trauma bonding. It was growth bonding. It was love bonding, you know, over like appreciation of being able to share ourselves, and not just share ourselves when we may have felt weak or small or whatever, but sharing how resilient and strong we actually are right now, and even during that time. It was a lot of different things, and trusting each other
So
with that, and not
yeah,
even knowing each other. It was amazing to me.
okay.
I'm
Beautiful,
sorry.
beautiful. No, no, no.
Oh, there I go.
What?
Yeah, we're not doing that anymore, Kenda.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, cut that out. Cut that out. You ain't do nothing wrong. So, like, I know. All right, Lord, how hard was it to find the story that you wanted to present? Because a lot of times, you know, when we're challenged with, like, say someone tells you to send me your bio type of thing. You might think, oh man, well, what have I done? What have I done to send? You know, you think it got to be all these big accomplishments, you know, but then you know, you find out that when somebody sits down and helps you really look at the things that you done and do every day in life, we accomplish a lot more than we give ourselves credit for. But how challenging was it for you to decide on what story to present?
Kenda, you want to go first on this? Because listen.
No, go ahead. You are the guest. You go first.
Okay. Well, it's funny you mentioned a bio because that was one of the hard parts for me as well. I'm the kind of person who, you know, I'm like a serial hard worker, right? I think I've shared in my story that I have a Jamaican cultural background. That's where I'm from. And there's this whole stereotype and joke that Jamaican people love to work. I don't know if we love to work or if we have to work, right? But I usually, when I do something, I add it to the pile of accomplishments and I just kind of move on to the next thing. So when you tell me to write a bio, I'm like, what have I done? I have to like actually talk to somebody else who cares about me. And they're like, what about this thing and that thing and that thing? I'm like, oh, okay. But when it came to what to write about, I think that all of us wrote about things that have been on our hearts for a very long time. I think that I think everyone except for Karen wrote about an experience that happened. Oh, and Noreen, but experiences that happened when they were little girls. Like Kenda's story about her stuttering has been her whole life's journey. You know, Maji's story had to do with being a young girl thrusted into motherhood and wifehood, right? And seeing how it happened to her sisters before her. So I think that these were stories that have been on our hearts for so long, and we didn't know that these stories were worth telling on this type of a platform. I want to give light to someone who came into the process early to help us flesh our stories out. I will always say this lady's name, whether she's in the room or not, but Dr. Lachey Harvey.
Yes.
A former professor of mine, actually in the subject of human sexuality. And when I met her, I remember thinking, wow, what a full Black woman, a fully fledged, authentic Black woman showing up in all of who she is and also fulfilling the role that she was placed into, right? In my case, she was my professor. But I've seen her do so many other things. But she talked to us about how, you know, a lot of the things that we know as Black women, we knew as Black girls. We just were not told that we knew these things. We were often told to be quiet, or that we were fast, or that we were asking too many questions, or we were too loud. And it over time caused us to feel like we didn't know anything. But if you look at the wealth of knowledge you have now, there's a version of you at 12 and 15 and 18 that knew that thing as well. And I think that for me, that helped me to go back and consider the story that I've always had in my head.
Yeah.
Let me say peace to the family right quick. How's everybody feeling today?
Hello.
Spirit is strong, definitely strong.
Definitely. Let's go back a little bit though, and because I know we talking about the show that actually happened yesterday. I only saw one performance. I only saw Kenda's performance yesterday, actually, and which was dynamic. Definitely felt that whole thing. But today's show we talking about the genius. And for the Mayat Temple Elevation. We want our people that's out there to be able to tap into some of the genius moments that you have had in your life also. But I want the people to understand, like, as we talking about this, well, first of all, I've actually been a part of this before. We did this with the barbers before. We did
Oh,
we did like three shows with brother Lamar, and where we had to come up and tell our stories also. So and we actually did it there at the regional the same museum. And then we did a couple other places that we did around in the Charles Village area before. So we had to, so I understand the experience y'all had with working with each other, and what I mean, becoming like one and taking the pictures and sharing each other's energy and all of that kind of bonding that y'all probably actually did. But I want to y'all to can I guess separately y'all go into the stories y'all actually told, what I mean, so people can actually get a background of, like, give us a little recap of your actual stories.
Okay, we can do that. Can I answer the question first that Simbi asked?
Oh,
If
okay,
you don't
yeah.
mind. Do you mind that?
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So for me, it was intimidating simply because I think I just want to share it. We can share our stories, but I think the process part might help to get towards the story. But I'm gonna answer it though. But I just want to share that. For me, I didn't have like a master's. I did not graduate college. So when I was filling out that form, I started feeling smaller as I completed each section, but I have a wealth of knowledge. And so I have a bio based on things that I've done as a writer, and a coach, right? But I realized that I still had also the feelings of, what if you were so smart, you would at least have finished college. That little qualifier was coming in, and you're surrounded by these genius women that are, they're in the world and they're lettered. And I said, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? And that's when I knew I had to deal with the stuttering, like you were talking about, because I could have easily done a really easy story about breast cancer, because that's what I coach on. That's my model. My joy factor is based upon that experience. And I realized that I would have been really selling my own self short. And like you said, my little girl was like, no, we've been like, I need to be like addressed a little bit. Like I've been bypassing it. And I realized that it was deep. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
So, and I'm glad Jabari asked that question, because I know y'all, y'all exhausted. Y'all want to rest. Y'all been through a great energetic experience. But I did want to us to do a little bit of work for a few minutes and really talk about the different topics that every woman brought. And so if we can begin with you, Yannick, yours was titled Intentionality, right?
correct.
Yes. Could you go into what your subject was about?
Certainly. So, my subject, and let's talk about the title and everything, it had to do with how I realized that women and girls were kind of painted into this narrative of becoming this statistic when they were not told about how to protect themselves while exploring their sexuality, right? It started with me talking about my experience as a child, hearing my father say the word baby mama and referring to my mother. And to take a step back, one of the first things I did before I fleshed out this story was I touched base with my sisters and I said, listen, I know that most of y'all are mothers, and I don't want to tell a story that's going to be hurtful or going to offend. And I want to know how y'all feel about me telling this story from my perspective. And they all gave me a resounding do it, right? So that gave me a lot of, that gave me propellers, right? So I walked through time in my life through my story, and I talked about hearing how people talked about young girls when they were exploring their sexuality versus boys, and how boys, it's like, oh, it's natural, boys will be boys, versus girls, it's like, oh no, she's the fast one. I talked about how, you know, as a girl who hit puberty early, who was in I've been this height and almost this weight since I was 12 years old. So my mother had a task on her hand to figure out how much can I teach this girl about this quote unquote womanhood thing when she's not a woman. And then realizing that sometimes the idea of the village is what you need. So if my mother was unable to find the words, I also had an aunt who kind of kept it a little bit more cut and dry and real, and told me, like, this is birth control, do this, don't do that, right? Maybe she had to whisper it when my mom wasn't listening sometimes, but I'm still grateful for her in that way. Being a young woman in college and finding my way to even the student health services, and realizing that if I don't go ahead and find these ways to protect myself while I'm exploring this part of my young womanhood, I could end up in that statistic place that I have been trying to avoid all my life. And then coming to the point of being a young woman in a relationship and realizing that my partner, my boyfriend's family, they were perfectly okay with this word. They were okay with me giving birth to their grandson, their nephew, their great grandson, as they didn't care about the foundation of the relationship that I needed to know that my family was going to be secure. They just wanted us to have a cute kid. So that they
Can you say that line for us?
That was deep.
The one with the grandmother?
Where you said it's a boom, boom, boom on my...
Yeah. So the grandmother asked me, so when are y'all gonna have a baby? She didn't even ask the both of us. She asked me, so when y'all gonna have a baby? And I said, well, we're not married. And she goes, well, wouldn't nobody be mad or nothing? And I said, and I think she meant that as a compliment, as if to say that she thought that I would be a good mother. But to me, it felt like an attempt on my life. Because I had spent my whole life up to that point avoiding this destination. You know, it's, if you think about, right, we're all grown here. It is not easy to bring a child into the world, but there is a level of intentionality that you have to have if you're going to be actively exploring that part of your adulthood sexuality, while also deciding that I do not want to accidentally make a child. I want to intentionally do something like that. So when she said that to me, I felt like, it's like, you don't even know me. Do you even see me? Do you see how I live my life? Do you see the choices I have had to make up to this point to be a 30-year-old woman who has had relationships and who has lived a life and hasn't accidentally had a child? Do you know how much effort has gone into that? And it really hurt my feelings, because I felt like she didn't see me. All she saw was what she wanted. And she didn't even ask him what he wanted. Imagine if I took that and ran with it. And then I feel like it would have caused this level of resentment in even that young relationship, because we were not ready for anything like that. We didn't have to, we would have been building a mansion on sand.
And you said that she didn't even ask him, is he ready to take care of a family?
Did you even ask
him? Ready to be married or something?
Did you even ask him if he wants a baby?
Exactly.
Or did you ask him if he's going to propose? Is he ready to take care of a child? Not even a child, a family. Because when a woman gives birth, yes, there are some women who don't have the option to take time from work, right? But ideally, you would hope that a woman would give birth to your child, speaking to the gentleman, and wouldn't have to go back to work in 4 weeks. Like, that is madness. You know what her
How
body
long?
just
How long
did?
was y'all together when she asked you? When she said
We
that
were
to you?
together for 2 years.
2 years. Okay, 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The span of the relationship was 2.5, but yeah, so long enough for me to have presented the kind of woman that I was trying to be in life, right? But man, it's just I feel like, and we're getting into Yannick's philosophy here. I did not want to bring that kind of stress into a relationship that I felt like already was dealing with a lot. We were trying to grow as individuals. We were still becoming, we like, I was, you know, a woman, he was a man, but we were still in this immaturity state in a lot of areas, and I felt like it would not have been a good time. We loved each other, for the record. I think that for some time we saw forever with each other, and sometimes things just don't work out, and that's okay. But man, my feelings were hurt when she said that to me, because she didn't even consider him. Imagine. And it makes me think about even Maji's story. So
Yes.
Jabari, you didn't hear Maji's story, but her story was about mommy cake weddings. And I'm gonna speak on her
I'm sorry.
behalf a little
I'm sorry.
bit.
It was about what?
The concept of a mommy cake wedding. And
That
in
was
her
deep.
story, she explored how her and her sisters all had the experience of becoming pregnant before they were married.
Okay.
And as a way to protect them from the world, to give them this marital legitimacy, her mother encouraged, pushed, forced
Yeah,
them to
coerced very
marry.
strongly.
Yes, strongly convinced them that they needed to marry their children's fathers, right? So all her and all of her sisters had what she coined the mommy cake wedding, which is the concept of this wedding that is put together in a rather quick fashion, maybe with some of the parties a little bit resistant, but pushed towards the altar. And that could have been my experience, right? Where it was, I could have gotten pregnant, and then someone would have been like, y'all might as well get married, right? But then he doesn't feel like he got to choose me, and I don't feel like I got to say yes. You know what I mean? And in the story, I'm talking from the child's perspective of feeling like this man doesn't feel like he chose this woman and this child. Even though they were in a relationship and all these things, this word for me gave the connotation of you feel like you're stuck with them and not like you chose them. And that's how I perceived it.
Can I just add that? I'm sorry. Can I just add that I love the way that you are very balanced in the way that you're looking at it. It was, you said, yes, I'm thinking about me first, ethical selfishness, because I know that if I'm not right, then it's going to mess up the whole environment with him. What about him? It's not like about just you, but this man that I love, does he want this? Do we need this? And I think that's very beautiful how it wasn't painted in a way that it's like, oh, him, him, but it was very centered in you.
Thank you.
And I want to commend you and honor you and thank you for being intentional. And because we know that it's pressure, you know, society and our family culture, etc., puts on us, you know, with certain things. And to complete, like to be awake enough and self-aware enough to know what's right and what's not right for you is very important. Not allowing your emotions to lead you into making decisions that's going to affect not just your entire life, but the being that you're bringing in, and also the father, etc. So I think that that's very important for us to build and grow successful and sustainable families moving forward. We have to be, like you say, very intentional in what we're doing. A lot of times we come together in relationships and say we want to get married and be together, and we haven't even discussed our philosophy of relationship and marriage or life journey. And then we like, you know, some years down the road bumping into each other, realizing that we don't agree on so many fundamental things.
Right.
You know,
right.
so we kind of put the cart before the horse. You know, so I think that's very beautiful. And you close it, if I remember correctly, saying I'll be your wife, I'll even be your widow, but I'm not going to be your baby mama.
That's about right.
Because there's nothing wrong. You know, babies are beautiful, and mama is a beautiful term, but in this society today, baby mama, we know the energy that carries. It's kind of a derogatory label when people say it, even though they may not intend it that way. Is that, oh, you that's just your baby mama or something. It's like it puts her, it's not up there with just mother, like the mother of my children. No, that's my baby mama. You know what I'm saying?
You know,
or my wife. No, that's my baby mama. It just has a lower type of position it feels.
Yeah.
But it's more healthy. It's more healthy, and I'm glad that you took the stance. I mean, to raise your children with a family, you know, with a family being there, and that's part of the problem that we have in the society today. Is, you know, I mean, the families being separated. You know what I'm saying? So when you have, you know, I mean, a man and a woman separated and not together in relationships, that's part of the problem that we have right now, and that's going on in society. So, you know, so what I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't. The story ended, so I'm stuck with the, you know what I mean. So y'all after 2 years. You know, this the question I was asking. Then y'all just kind of move forward. I mean, because y'all never did have a baby, right?
No, I mean, and I also I want to comment on something that you said, because we have to accept that sometimes things do not work out. Even people who get married and have children, sometimes it's the healthier choice for that family to separate versus to have toxicity and try to raise a child in toxicity, right? So what I am talking about is the intention of the foundation. So even if somebody, and granted, there's beautiful mothers and children who are born who they didn't have that quote unquote marriage foundation, but this mother still put everything into raising her child, and this father still showed up for his child for his child's mother, right? So we have to acknowledge that as well. But sometimes things don't work out. So this particular relationship did not work out.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. We're on good terms. If I see him right now, it's still love, right? There's no animosity, there's no beef. But the intention that I had before I met him, right? So I don't care how much I love you. I don't care how long we are together. For me, and for the children that I may have one day, there's just a level of foundation that I need. I am okay with not becoming a mother if those are the circumstances that I have to bring my child into the world under. I'm okay with it. And if you would have had the opportunity to see all the stories, you would have seen a little bit more of, you know, like I'm explaining it to you now, but I wanted those things. Like any woman, like any person, like biologically, evolutionarily speaking, there's a time where your body and your brain are just like, now is the time. I'm watching Gerber commercials and I'm crying at the commercial because I'm like, one day, please. My 20s were hard because that's the time period where I feel like my body and my mind were telling me, now, let's do it. And I was in a relationship at that time, a different relationship. And that would have been a terrible time to bring a child into the world. But if I would have just followed the biological roadmap, then I would have been in that situation where I felt like I was chasing this man down the street, begging him to love me and my baby. And I didn't want that. So I think it's just deciding what you want for yourself. There are some people who decide, I actually don't want to co-parent. I want to be a single parent, and they're okay with doing it that way. But I think the issue comes in when you try to go against your programming, right? So if someone is okay with, they don't desire marriage, but they find someone that they want to co-parent with, and they have the same philosophy as Sembi said, and they have talked about these things, that can work. because the conversations have been had. They're on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Versus someone who, for instance, like a me, who's like, no, I really want this traditional family foundation. And then I get with somebody who doesn't. And then now I'm, like Sembi said, bumping up against them because I want something different from them. And now it's a fractured foundation. And that, I think, is difficult to raise a child in.
I agree. I agree. But I will say that, you know, I mean, like you said with the co-parenting thing, a lot of times when we do separate because it's a toxic relationship, a lot of times I know just from being in the barbershop and being around, those separations don't go smoothly, and then they wind up being a problem for the children. You know what I'm saying? Now there are some situations where people do separate and they do have a great situation. That's good. If you got to separate and then y'all can still get along and get together, but a lot of times that's just not the case. You know, and I'm, I know specifically from, from my from myself and tons of other brothers around me, when that separation happens, when that breakup comes, it got hard, extremely hard to raise the children, because mommy philosophy is this and then daddy philosophy is this. The philosophies are split, and it gets really tough, and that's a lot what's going on in the community. But there are some situations where people do have healthy that are healthy with raising the children,
Yeah, and I was one of the beneficial ones, to be blessed. Like, with my children's mother, we had 5 children together, and our youngest were because our youngest are twins, born 2002, so they about 5 years old, no, 7 years old when we parted. And I asked, the children, like, well, how do y'all feel now, mommy and daddy, not together anymore? And the youngest, who was 7 years old, the twin, he said, well, I feel a lot less stressed out, actually.
Wow.
And so our children did not, me and their mother getting divorced did not negatively affect our children. It helped because our relationship was so toxic. And if we insisted on continuing that relationship, it may have damaged them further.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. That I think that, yes, I think everyone ideally wants the family. We want that and children, but we have to start evolving the way that we look at what the family is going to look like. And that means that it could be traditional things may have to be looked at and dealt with in a different way to create some peace in the house. And if it doesn't work, and it's hard when you're hurt and you're breaking up, but evolving and growing through that for self, because you want to be better for your children. So staying together for the children, and you're miserable and hurting, that's like a generational pain that's just going to grow.
I agree. And it's so funny you said that, Senbi, because when Jabari shared his point, I was going to add something similar, saying if it's difficult to raise children because the philosophies are different and you've separated, the philosophies were already different when you were together. And I have friends who have married and either have separated or divorced and have children, and the children are very acutely aware of the stressors that are happening in the relationship. When you come home and you don't want to be there, your child feels that. You know what I mean? Versus if you can have the opportunity to raise your children in a less, like, at least get them out of that cesspool of emotions. You know what I mean? That it can make such a big difference. And a lot of times people just are not mature when they bring children into the world to start, like emotional maturity communication. Communication. These are muscles that they haven't even built yet. So it's like that goes back to, are we even ready for this? Like, I don't even know how to have a difficult conversation with you without screaming my head off. How am I going to do that when there's a 2-year-old who's right here who doesn't know how to communicate? All they know is screaming. Are we going to be screaming together? You know what I mean? I think that there's a lot of foundation of growth that people can experience before they even consider, am I ready for a child? You know, maybe we should do therapy before the bad things happen, is what I say.
Yeah, because children often say, or no, we often say to our parents how much better, or at least more relaxed they are when they deal with our children, their grandchildren. But the fact of the matter is, it's because our parents they grew up now. Yeah. Like when I started having children, when I look back, I say, okay, I was raising my children, but they was also raising me.
That's what I tell Keegan all the time.
I gained a lot of wisdom
growing me up.
Yeah. And so I gained a lot of wisdom that naturally, when I have grandchildren, I'm going to, I'm more developed now. So I'm not going to be the same towards my children. That's why in certain indigenous settings, it's the grandparents raise the children. Because everybody's together in a close-knit setting, like a village or whatever. And so the grandparents having more wisdom now, is natural that they have a stronger influence on the emotional development of the children.
Definitely.
So, Kenda, you understood the assignment. I really loved your message, because I mean, we all experience it, like in school, especially depending on what type of teachers you have. My thing was, I was doing battle when I was in like middle school and high school. You know what I'm saying? But I love the way you loved yourself enough to stand up for your understanding of the assignment. And how you extracted the lesson and the jewels from your stuttering. How you seen that was part of the assignment. And I love how, the ladies, y'all messages kind of overlapped and intertwined, because when what's the sister name that fell when she came out?
Tracy.
That was awesome. And at the end, well, I love how she, first of all, after she fell and got up, she took a bow and said, that was a hell of an interest. Don't play with me. I love that part.
Yeah, she's a dancer, so she made it work.
Yeah, but she have a message about that. She said, make your stumble a part of the dance. But that relates to the stuttering, because the stuttering is like the stumbling, but you made it part of your dance, Kenda. So talk to us about that.
So like I said, my life, I could have talked about anything with probably more fluency and ease and less stress. I could have really punked out, because I had some dynamic stories aside from the stuttering. And I was still debating about it. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to write. So I started going through my Facebook book and posts, because I used to really be writing these essays and these, analysis of different things. And I was going through my Facebook post, and I came across this letter that I wrote in 2009 to Sheila Johnson. And I was like reading reading the business, because she was joking this man that was running for, I believe, like governor of Virginia, and he stuttered. And she was like just talking about him being slow, you can't trust him, just being really negative. And I was like, as a Black woman, you gonna go there? Why? With all the different things that you had to overcome. You can just not like him. You cannot like his politics. You cannot, whatever, but his speech impediment, that's really like low and corny. So I wrote this long letter. And so I brought it and I read it, and everybody was like, that's it. That's it. And I was like, oh God. Because when I first auditioned, I thought they were going to give us something to read, or I was going to write about a famous woman. So it's the irony of the whole thing. It's the irony of the whole thing, because I'm thinking, well, okay, maybe we can talk about the genius of Ida B. Wells or Madam C.J. Walker. All these, I'm thinking in my mind, this is going to be fun. I can, and it's like, no, it's about you. And I was like, okay. And to begin my story with the story of me going back to school and having an assignment. First of all, I'm insulted because I know I can write. I know I'm smart. So I'm still dealing in the back of my mind. You don't think I'm smart because, but I'm not even really directly addressing it. I'm just like, whatever. And so they asked me to write an essay about someone that I admire. And I sincerely was like, okay, I thought about different women. I said, I'm going to write about myself because I think that's dope. That's going to get their attention. Like, wow, she's really serious about her writing. And I was serious. I was a single mother that was choosing to go back to college. My speech, I pushed past whatever type of barriers I'm going to do. I forgot my three points, but it was basically about why I admired that I was still doing this right then, like going back to school. And when I saw that I failed, I was like, what? I was still kind of dense at the fact that he probably thought that I shouldn't be writing about myself until we started going back and forth. And imagine, my speech was not as as fluid as it is now. So I'm like, what? I'm still like, no, I'm still stuttering. We're going back and forth. I didn't care because in my mind, I'm like, so you're saying I can't write about myself? Why?
Got it.
Why can't I do that?
Wipes and
Why can't I do that?
Thank you, Mac.
I gave you three reasons why. So you failed me not because of the way I wrote it, because it was written excellently, but you failed it because I wrote about myself.
Yeah,
and I
that's
distinctly said I admire. I know that part.
Can I jump in, if you don't mind, Kenda? So you're talking, and I'm thinking about this. When that King Richard movie came out, and it was about Venus and Serena's dad. There was a scene that I think either was in the documentary or the movie, and it was this interviewer, Caucasian male, who was interviewing one of the girls at the time, and they were talking about how confident they were in themselves, and he kept asking them why, like wanting them to justify why they were confident. And Richard came in and was like, no, she said she's confident. She knows what she's here to do and all these things. And it made me realize that a lot of people in society, or society as a whole, do not see it for little Black girls and therefore Black women. So when you show up and you say, I am confident and I admire myself, they're like, why? Because I don't. So it's
exactly.
like, he couldn't accept that you not only admire yourself as a Black woman, and a Black woman who stutters, and a Black woman who is confident in your ability to communicate for yourself, even with these things, right? He just couldn't see why you would. And to him, it was so wrong that you would, that he had the audacity to fail you, not based on the merits of your paper, but based on the fact that you decided to admire yourself. And I think that when you so gentlemen, Kenda was telling us what her story was for weeks without accepting what her story was, right?
Yeah.
So she was telling us how she had the audacity to be born as a Black woman who stutters and how she chose to come here this way, all this metaphysical, astrological, cosmic radiant stuff, right? And we were like, okay. And then she was still going back to, and she's like a big history buff, little bit of a nerd, but so she's coming and she's talking about all these other women and she's got citations and dates and names and quotes. And we were like, yeah, but you though, like you, like I think one of the notes I said was, I appreciate that you're giving us all these other women that are phenomenal women, but even in your story about the essay, you already said that you were phenomenal enough to be the subject matter of this I admire essay, right? We don't need all these people. We don't need the, like, we love Madam C.J. Walker and
make me
Shirley
cry.
Chisholm. We love all of them, but like, Kenda, this is about you, right? And the part of your story where you broke it down and you said, can you imagine? And then I started imagining ordering food, calling my son's school. And then when you said job interview, it touched my soul because I hate applying for things. I hate putting myself on paper, waiting for judgment, and then waiting for someone to accept me, to tell me if I'm good enough when I know that I'm the best candidate in the room. But they're going to decide on some other qualifying factor whether or not they accept me or not. And then you have all this qualification, and then because you stutter in your presentation, they're going to buckle in whether or not they think that you're quote unquote good enough for this role. And when you said that, it really touched me because I was like, wow, you're already on this chopping block where you're hoping to qualify. And a job interview are not applying for jobs. Most people are not applying for jobs because they love that job. They're applying for jobs because they need that job, right? So then to have to go through the selection and denial process because of something that's out of your control that you have already worked so hard to overcome. And when you're in stressful situations, I'm sure it's heightened, right? Because of the anxiety. That touched me. Because my mom stutters some as well. And that's something when you talked about the footnote and the preface of, oh, I'm sorry, and feeling like you have to start over, right? Or I think about times when she's saying a word and I'm jumping in and I'm guessing the word for her. And I'm like, I wonder how damaging that is. Like, I can just wait and allow her to say what she's saying to me. You know, so I really appreciated that you stood up for people who stutter in that way. So I didn't mean to, my philosophy, my process is I'll come in and I'll be like, well, I don't mean to do this, and then I do it. So I don't mean to tell your story or tell your journey of your story for you, but that has been my experience with it.
I appreciate being seen because I realized that I would still, because I used to pray that God would take it away. And I think that this process has had me to officially accept it as a part of the genius of who I am. This has been such a blessing on so many in so many ways, because I remember being like a little girl too, praying to God to take it away. And why do I still stutter? What have I done wrong? Am I bad? I mean, seriously, like I went to speech therapists. I've even went to hypnotists. As an adult, still stutter. Oh, you'll grow out of it. No, I didn't. And it was like, so but then I thought, who would I be if I didn't have it? I mean, sure, I'll probably still be smart and all these different things, but would I have the same character, the same patience? You know, I'm still spicy and I'm not perfect. You understand what I'm saying? But that's my superpower activator, literally and figuratively. And I think I'm finally now being comfortable accepting it and sharing it. So I appreciate you all for allowing that and being so encouraging for that.
Beautiful. And I noticed, like, the most common thread between all of your stories that I can see is it's about being seen for who you are, not as, you know, everyone else, but like Noreen, a head wrap or a head trap.
Yes.
Now, hers was it about being present, like being taking up your space unapologetically?
Yes.
Yes,
It was. It was.
Yeah.
So in a way, it was also about being in those professional spaces where you're presenting yourself as well, and you are made to feel like you need to shrink in order to fit in or to make people less uncomfortable. And her saying, you know, there's parts of it where she's like, even with my mouth closed, I still scream, I'm a queen. Right? Because it's like there's a part of your inner glow that you just can't turn off. Right. And she's one of her lines that I love that she said, so rattle your nerves as it may. So in her talk back, and to all my sisters who see this, I'm speaking on y'all's behalf. Okay.
I appreciate you for showing up, because I know everyone's probably still full.
Yeah. But you know, something said to jump on, so here I am. But one of the things that Noreen mentioned in her talkback was that one of the foundations of building this story was addressing this imposter syndrome that she was dealing with.
Yes.
And Noreen is a multidisciplinary artist. Her work is beautiful and powerful. So to think of her dealing with imposter syndrome, at first I was really puzzled, like, really? Because you seem like you're showing up in all of you. But then understanding that we all have to show up in these spaces that are not built for us. And one of the things I said to her at the time was, I wish I could give credit to the person who originally said it, but you know, when you're on the internet, it all blends together. So somebody on the internet said, the reason why you feel this imposter syndrome is because you are an imposter. This space was not created for you, and you're not necessarily 100% welcome in it either. So you feel unwelcomed because you are unwelcome, you know? And we talked about that briefly. And so her story in a way is about taking up space and fully existing in who you are.
Yeah. And I see a commonality with all of your stories, because even with you not accepting the title or the label baby mama, you're saying, look, I am a unique person. I'm not going to be what y'all expect me to be. See me for who I am. And I was honored and privileged to witness all of you just share this, because it really, it's just the element of sharing is really empowering, and it feeds us all. Even with the sister, I think that was Karen, that, you know, then one said, don't be touching my small of my back.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, because as a man, like I was telling Kendra, I didn't know that was an issue.
You went up and asked her so he could be clear.
Yeah.
That's why I love this man. I'm sorry.
No, I said, what's the proper way to embrace a woman, you know? Because but then when later on that day, I said, okay, let me see how I hug women. So I hugged Kendra like she was, you know, a woman that I don't really know like that. And naturally, yeah, my hands were like nowhere near her lower back. You know, they were up above that. And so when I put my hands on her lower back, then I can see how women can feel uncomfortable, because then that's close to the rear end. And you know, and then a woman can feel a man's intention if he trying to, you know, send a message, you know, touching her in that spot. So then, but that brought my awareness, you know, to make me say, okay. And me and one of the brothers were joking afterwards. I said, when I greet women from now on, I'm gonna keep my hands in my pocket and just lean in like this. But hands in the game.
Yeah, but even that, like, there is a proper way to hug when you actually hugging women. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times sometimes those hugs do be inappropriate. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes a woman will greet you and throw them all. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Mhm.
throw them on you. You know what I mean? And you hugging and squeezing. You know what I mean? And so a lot of times people say that's inappropriate. The way that you hug. You know what I mean? So there is a you know, there's a kind of like you got to stand back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Enough to
Mhm.
get. You know what I'm saying? Up in the middle of the back. You know what I'm saying? And kind of lean over. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Mhm.
with that hug.
But what
We-
Karen told me, she said the sideways, do the side joint like
The,
that.
Do
the
the side,
church hug is
I-
always safe. The church
yeah,
hug is
I mean, I
always
don't know if you
safe.
right there, you know what I mean? Boom, you kind of lean forward, you know what I mean? It's just right there, you know, boom, you know. Like, yeah,
I think
we
that
talked about that. We actually practiced that a few times the proper way to actually hug, you know, because I'm telling you, it can get out of line on both parts. You know what I'm saying? You know.
But in that case, right, I think that two grown people, for instance, if two grown people have a crush or a chemistry or a flirtation, I think that they know that,
Yeah.
right? Karen's story was about being in a situation where you're in a professional environment, in a community building, uplifting environment.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you got a chance to see Karen, but Karen's presentation is very um, she's a woman of God. She's very spiritual, very religious, and she's modest in her presentation as well, right?
Mhm.
So I think that even sometimes as women, when we're in these professional spaces, sometimes we'll go out of our way to not quote unquote present ourselves in a sexual manner, right?
Mhm.
So the dress is long, it's loose, it's not
Yeah,
tight,
she's
it's
so
not
regal
short. Right, you're going out
and
of your way to make
strong.
sure that you are presenting yourself in a way that's calling in this respect. And then she was also discussing the topic of the community and, outreach and upliftment. And then to have someone cross all of those boundaries that she's already erected and
Mhm.
then do that, like there is intention in that. So we're not talking about an accidental, like, oh, I was just trying to hug you, I didn't mean to. That is not what this was about. This was
Mhm.
about someone who was taking the opportunity to take advantage of doing something in a moment where he felt like she either wouldn't or couldn't say something,
Wow.
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's different. It's not just a hug.
Yeah,
It's,
because she spoke about integrity,
yeah.
you know, and she having presented an idea, well, why don't we get Safe Streets involved? And the comment was made, well, they have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And she was like, yeah, but you creeping with both feet.
I know that was the listen. Baltimore. What is her closer was Baltimore needs more charm and less charisma. And I was
more character and less
more
charisma.
character and less charisma. And I was like,
Yeah.
boom, you know, like
Yeah.
everybody was dynamic. Everybody. I've never worked with everybody that was strong and cool with everyone else showing up strong and loving on each other. And we had a moment when the director did not appreciate the first version of my story. And my sisters was like, hold up, wait a minute. No, you're not. And I was like, it's cool, y'all. This is good.
Yeah, everybody was ready to fight that night. Like,
That was Mark.
on behalf of Kenda.
That was Mark. Who was
Yeah.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And for the record, Mark was a wonderful director. We all had moments because I even had moments where I was pushing back, because these are not fictional stories. These are our lives told by us. So one of the things I said to him one-on-one was, the only correct answer you could have given me was, Yannick, your story is perfect and it doesn't need any changes. So anything outside of that, I was going to take issue with. But he was a great director. But on that particular day, we were closing in on our timeline and we needed to have our stories finalized. And he was switching gears. And on that day, we felt like he went from gear 2 to gear 6. I don't know how to drive stick, so I don't know if my analogy is actually tracking, but just track with me. We didn't see him go from gear 3, 4, 5. We feel like he went from gear 2 to 6 when it came to Kenda. And all the ladies that were on that night, we all felt this sense of, here's this woman who's telling her story about the fact that she hasn't always felt like she was listened to and heard. What we're going to do is listen to her and hear her here and now, right? And Kenda is she has such a beautiful, resilient spirit. She heard the feedback and she took it, what's the word I'm looking for here? She didn't take it personally, right? But we took it personally on her behalf. We took it personally on her behalf. But the final version of Kenda's story was so beautiful. I don't think it could be any more perfect than what it was. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, and that was my journey, because my husband, I talk a lot and I give a lot of information, but I think it goes back to the start. I'm like, do you get it? Do you understand? Am I being clear? So even as I have become more fluent, I'm more wordy. And then I'm a Gemini, I'm a genius, as you said, I'm a nerd, I'm a history buff. So I got all this data that I can share with less stamina. Oh man.
Well, look, I want to thank you all of the sisters and everyone who put together the program. I want to thank y'all for sharing this.
Lamar, can we talk about Lamar real quick? I thought he was going to join. I guess he's not going to be able to come on.
Yeah, he had texted me, said he was in the midst of between working out and trying to get to the mosque. So he said, if we do it again, he'll be able to come on. But he had to go to the mosque.
Yeah, but I was just excited. I think what they're doing with this is the most beautiful healing work I've ever experienced, and the whole team. The people that you didn't see, like the set, Kendra, right?
Banks.
Kendra Blackston?
No, Kendra Banks.
Kendra Banks. I don't know where I get Blackston from. Kendra Banks. She did the set overnight, and it was amazing. The pictures which we were surprised about. Mark's children coming in and like assisting with photographs and editing and all those different things. Lamar just coming in and giving us pep talks and creating the space to be able to have it. Darius in the background, but always there at the same time, just making sure that everything was going well. And Tueri, our story doula, I cannot say enough about her. So I'm trying to name people before it's like over, because I know I'm not going to be able to cover everyone, but the people that helped us to get that healing that you all got, I need to give them some honor too, because they were phenomenal.
Yeah, Tueri Ganges was the hashtag she be coaching. She's a writer and a story coach, and she was the coach that was there for every single rehearsal. So we had some coaches that came in and out at times, but Tueri was there for every single rehearsal. And she also is an English teacher and also a mother and a grandmother. So we know her plate was full, but she made sure that she made herself 100% available to us in this process. Probably also because she loves stories, but she really wanted us to feel like we had support. So thank you, Tueri. But I also have to thank my personal story coach, Shantae Hatcher, who also was a storyteller, I think twice. And we were so well matched because her feedback is very concise and poignant. And I am a diligent student. So when you tell me this needs to be worked on, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do my homework. Right. So I want to thank you, Shantae, for being there. And we didn't think that she would make it, and she made it in time to see my story. And she was, to know the people who saw it from the groundwork up, who were proud of us when they saw the finished product. It meant a lot to hear the positive outcome feedback from them. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to Mark Laveau, our director, who is a fully masculine man, but gave so much space for all this feminine energy. And He
Yes,
was
he did.
he was a father and a brother and a friend, and also like somebody you want to fight sometimes, but also somebody you want to hug sometimes. So he was such a good director. So thank you to everyone who was
Yes.
involved. We really appreciate y'all. At times I was like, I'm never gonna do this again. Why did I do this? This is hard. I don't even. There were days I had a dream about feedback because I was like, oh my God, they are in my butt. But I don't know. Maybe I could do something like this again.
I'm thinking about it, so I'm just saying. I'm thinking about it.
Let me rest and breathe first, but it's not a hard no anymore.
Yeah, so y'all created a masterful work of art that will last forever. And so congratulations. And keep telling your stories. Thank you, Sister Yanique, for joining us this morning. We're not gonna keep you. Want you to enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Go and get some rest. Rest your brain. Might be smoking right now or whatever. But yeah, so yes, thank you very much. And we thank everyone for joining us and everyone who will see this. You know, any closing words, Jabari?
Nah, I just want to thank the sisters for, you know, giving a great show. I'm gonna catch the rest of it today, like I said, because Lamar did put it on his page, so I'm gonna catch the rest of it. And yeah, appreciate what y'all did, and appreciate y'all coming on. Well, not Sister Kendra, but appreciate you, sis, for coming. I'm always here. For coming on the show today. So we appreciate that, and hopefully you come back and join us again.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Peace and love.
All right,
peace. And love. Thank you. Thank you, Yanique. I love you.
I love you too. I'll see y'all. Bye-bye.